What if I told you that in the span of a single night, decades of secret nuclear work were reduced to rubble buried under a mountain? And what if I told you the world may not fully understand what just happened until it is already too late to reverse it? Before I take you inside this story, do me one small favor. If you care about real analysis, not recycled news headlines, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with one person who needs to understand what just shifted in the world. That one click helps more than you know. Now let us get into it. In the darkest hours of the morning, long before most Americans had even reached for their phones, a group of B-2 Spirit stealth bombers rolled down the runway at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. They lifted into the sky, banked east, and vanished into the night. No press briefings, no warnings, no leaks. Just a quiet, deliberate movement of the most advanced heavy bombers on the planet, heading toward a target on the other side of the world. By the time the sun climbed over the mountains of Iran, the picture on the ground had changed forever. The tunnels Iran believed were untouchable, the enrichment halls buried under hundreds of feet of solid rock, the centrifuge cascades that took years of smuggled parts and stolen expertise to build, all of it, according to early reports, is either destroyed or crippled beyond quick repair. This is not just another airstrike. This is not a warning shot. This is not a symbolic gesture meant to make politicians look tough on television. This is the kind of operation that gets studied in war colleges for the next 50 years. It shifts the balance of power in the Middle East. It rewrites the rules of what nations can and cannot hide underground. And it sends a very quiet, very cold message to every regime that thought geography and concrete would protect them from consequences. I want to walk you through this the right way. I'm going to give you the background first, because if you do not understand why this happened now, in this specific window, nothing else will make sense. Then we will get into the actual mission itself, what aircraft were used, how a strike like this is planned, and what it really takes to reach a target buried under a mountain. After that, I will give you my honest read on what we know, what we do not, and what a lot of the mainstream coverage is quietly missing. And finally, I will tell you what this means for Iran, for Israel, for Saudi Arabia, for Russia, for China, and for the United States over the next 10 years. Because, make no mistake, the world you woke up to today is not the same world you went to sleep in. Let us start with the story that led us here. For more than 20 years, Iran has been playing a very specific and very patient game. It is not the game most people think it is. On the surface, it looked like diplomacy, negotiations, agreements, broken agreements, new negotiations, fresh sanctions, back-channel talks, another round of inspections, another round of accusations. To the average viewer watching the news, it seemed like a confusing, never-ending back and forth. But underneath all of that noise, the strategy was simple. Iran was not trying to reach a deal. Iran was trying to run out the clock. Every negotiation was a stall tactic. Every pause in enrichment was a chance to reorganize. Every inspector allowed in was carefully limited to specific rooms, while other rooms, deeper rooms, kept humming along. The plan was never to sign a treaty. The plan was to inch close enough to a nuclear weapon that no one would dare stop them. And it almost worked, because there is a moment in every nuclear program where the balance tips. Before that moment, a strike is possible. It is painful, it is risky, but it is possible. After that moment, a strike becomes almost unthinkable. Too much material is spread across too many hidden sites. Too many scientists know too much. Too many bombs could be assembled in too short a time. Once a country crosses that threshold, the military option effectively dies, and the world has to live with a new nuclear power, whether it likes it or not. Iran has been racing toward that threshold for years. According to multiple international reports, they had enriched uranium far beyond the levels needed for any civilian energy program. They had shortened their breakout window to a matter of weeks. Some intelligence estimates were even more alarming. Buried inside a mountain at Fordow and spread across other facilities like Natanz and Isfahan, Iran had built something that was never designed to power a city. It was designed to change the map, and the world knew it. Israel knew it. The Gulf states knew it. European intelligence agencies knew it. American planners had been running strike simulations for over a decade. The question was never whether Iran was building a bomb. The question was always the same: when does the world decide that talking has failed? The answer, it turns out, was this week. Now, to understand why the strike happened at this exact moment, you have to look at the pressure cooker that had been building for the last 2 years. Iran's proxies had been attacking American forces in Iraq and Syria. Their ally Hezbollah had been trading fire across the northern border of Israel. The Houthis, armed and trained by Tehran, had turned the Red Sea into a shooting gallery, disrupting global trade in ways that hit every economy on Earth. Iranian drones had shown up in the war in Ukraine, killing civilians thousands of miles from Tehran. And behind all of it, the enrichment continued. Faster, deeper, more defiant. Every red line the international community drew, Iran crossed. Every warning they ignored. Every attempt at pressure, they answered with more centrifuges spinning underground. And then something changed. Intelligence reports, the ones the public will probably never see in full, began to describe activity at Fordow and other sites that could only mean one thing: the final steps, weaponization, the last technical hurdles between a stockpile of enriched uranium and an actual working device. At that point, the calculation shifted. Waiting was no longer safer than acting. Waiting was the risk. And once the White House and the Pentagon reached that conclusion, the clock started ticking down toward the mission we are talking about right now. Before I take you inside the strike itself, I want to pause for a second. If this breakdown is giving you clarity that the news channels are not, drop a comment below with the word clarity so I know you are getting real value from this. It genuinely helps me understand what kind of content you want more of. All right, back to the mission. Let us talk about the aircraft, because this matters. There are exactly 19 operational B-2 Spirit stealth bombers in the entire United States inventory. That is it, 19. Each one is a national asset. Each one costs more than $2 billion. Each one is protected, maintained, and flown by some of the most highly trained air crews in the world. When B-2s move, generals notice. When multiple B-2s move together, presidents notice. When multiple B-2s move toward a specific region with in-air refueling support and fighter escort coordination, the entire national security apparatus is holding its breath. The B-2 is not just a bomber, it is a flying paradox. It is the size of a large commercial airliner, but on radar it can look smaller than a bird. It can fly across oceans without being detected, drop weapons that no other aircraft in the world can carry, and slip back out again before anyone on the ground even understood what just happened. It was designed during the Cold War to slip past Soviet air defenses and hit hardened targets. Decades later, that design paid off in a way its original engineers probably never imagined. Because the B-2 is the only aircraft on Earth that can carry the weapon that made this mission possible. The GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, also known as the MOP. This is not a normal bomb. This is a 30,000-pound steel spear designed to punch through solid rock, reinforced concrete, and the deepest underground bunkers ever built. It falls from high altitude, accelerates through the air, and slams into the earth with such force that it burrows deep before its warhead ever detonates. The explosion happens not on the surface, but far below, inside the target itself, collapsing tunnels, crushing equipment, and reducing enrichment halls to sealed graves of dust and twisted steel. To hit a target like Fordow, buried under a mountain, you do not drop one of these bombs. You drop several. You stack them. The first bomb weakens the rock. The second bomb goes deeper into the crater the first one made. The third goes deeper still. Like driving a nail through wood with repeated hammer strikes, each impact takes you further into the target until you reach the very rooms Iran believed no weapon on Earth could touch. That is what the B-2s carried into the sky last night. Now let me walk you through what a mission like this actually looks like from the planning side, because Hollywood gets this wrong every single time. A strike of this scale is not something you throw together in a weekend. Every element is scripted down to the minute. The takeoff time, the refueling tracks, the altitude blocks, the exact moment each aircraft crosses each waypoint, the communication windows, the abort criteria. Every possible scenario, from a mechanical failure to an unexpected enemy fighter, has a pre-planned response. The bombers likely flew a route that took them across the Atlantic, over parts of Europe, and eventually into the airspace approaching their targets. They would have refueled multiple times from KC-46 or KC-135 tankers positioned along the route. This alone is a marvel of coordination. Try to imagine dragging a fuel hose across the sky at hundreds of miles per hour, in the dark, in silence, over and over again, without a single mistake. That is what those crews did. While the B-2s made their long, quiet journey, other pieces of the puzzle were moving into place. Somewhere in the region, F-22 Raptors and F-35 stealth fighters were likely positioned to sweep the skies clean of any Iranian aircraft that might dare to intercept. Somewhere in the Persian Gulf, aircraft carriers were repositioning. Somewhere in the Mediterranean, submarines were quietly moving into launch positions with Tomahawk cruise missiles ready to strike backup targets, air defense radars, command centers, and hubs. Somewhere in cyberspace, invisible attacks were probably already unfolding, blinding Iranian sensors and confusing their command structure. And then, at a very specific moment, the sky above Iran opened up. Radars that should have seen incoming aircraft saw nothing. Air defense operators who should have received warnings received silence. By the time the ground shook under Fordow, the B-2s were already turning around, already climbing back to cruise altitude, already beginning the long journey home. This is what a mission executed at the absolute peak of American air power looks like. It is quiet, it is precise, it is devastating, and it is over before the enemy even understands it began. Now, let us talk about what we actually know versus what people are pretending to know. Because right now, every talking head on cable news is going to tell you they have the full picture. They do not. And you deserve honesty, not theater. Here is what appears to be confirmed. American strategic bombers struck multiple Iranian nuclear facilities. The strikes included the deeply buried enrichment site at Fordow, along with facilities at Natanz and Isfahan. Massive ordnance penetrators were used. The strikes were coordinated with support aircraft, tankers, and likely naval assets. Initial assessments suggest severe damage to Iran's enrichment infrastructure. Here is what we do not know yet. We do not know the exact number of centrifuges destroyed. We do not know how much enriched uranium was inside these facilities at the moment of impact, or whether Iran had already moved some of it to a secret location. We do not know if any of Iran's key nuclear scientists were killed. Massive ordnance penetrators were used. The strikes were coordinated with support aircraft, tankers, and likely naval assets. Initial assessments suggest severe damage to Iran's enrichment infrastructure. Here is what we do not know yet. We do not know the exact number of centrifuges destroyed. We do not know how much enriched uranium was inside these facilities at the moment of impact, or whether Iran had already moved some of it to a secret location. We do not know if any of Iran's key nuclear scientists were killed. We do not know the full status of Iran's weaponization program, which could exist at sites that were not targeted, either because we did not know about them or because a decision was made to leave them for later. And here is what the media is getting wrong. This is not the end of Iran's nuclear program. Let me say that again clearly. This is not the end. This is a massive historic setback. It might buy the world years, but a nuclear program is not just buildings. It is knowledge. It is scientists. It is suppliers. It is political will. Buildings can be rebuilt. Tunnels can be redug. The only way to permanently end a nuclear program is to change the mind of the regime pursuing it, or to change the regime itself. Neither of those things happened last night. What happened last night was a demolition, a very expensive, very impressive, very consequential demolition. But the ground it was built on is still there. If you are still with me and you are getting real value from this deeper analysis, take 1 second to share this video on your favorite social platform. You would be surprised how many people are hungry for information that is not just headlines and hot takes. All right, let us keep going. Now I want to shift and give you the view from inside the cockpit, because a lot of people watch military videos and they only see the machines. They forget there are human beings inside those machines. Real people with families, mortgages, kids, and doubts, flying missions where a single mistake could turn into an international disaster. Imagine being one of those B-2 pilots. You have been on alert for weeks. You have studied maps of a country you have never visited but know better than your own hometown. You have memorized target coordinates that could reshape history. You have briefed the mission a dozen times, gone through the checklist, sat in simulators running through every possible failure scenario. And then one night, the phone rings. It is real. Not a drill, not an exercise. Tonight, you're flying into hostile skies with the weight of the world in your bomb bay. You walk out to the aircraft. It is massive, quiet, sitting there like a shadow in the shape of a wing. You settle into the seat. You strap in beside your partner, because a B-2 flies with only 2 pilots on board, for a mission that could last more than 30 hours. 30 hours of flying, refueling, navigating, planning, communicating, and thinking. 30 hours of adrenaline that has to be carefully managed so you do not burn out before the most critical moments. You take off in silence. The lights of Missouri fade behind you. You climb into the dark, and for hours, nothing happens. Just the hum of the engines, the soft glow of instruments, the rhythm of a job most people will never hear about. Then the target area gets closer. Adrenaline sharpens. Everything you trained for compresses down into a few critical minutes. You cross into the danger zone. Your systems are scanning the air. Your electronic countermeasures are ready. Somewhere below you, radars are searching but not finding. Somewhere above, satellites are watching. You approach the release point, and then with a series of quiet commands, the bomb bay opens. The weapons drop. The aircraft lightens as thousands of pounds of steel and explosive fall away toward the earth. You turn. You climb. You start the long, quiet flight home. Behind you, the mountain trembles. The tunnels collapse. The centrifuges are gone. And by the time you land back in Missouri, more than a day later, exhausted, running on caffeine and disciplined, the world has already changed. You just do not get to talk about it. That is the human side of this mission. That is what real air power looks like. Not video game explosions, not action movie speeches. Just discipline, silence, and the willingness to carry a burden most people will never understand. Now, let us zoom out and talk about what this actually means for the world going forward. Because a strike like this does not just end a story. It starts a new one. For Iran, the immediate future is grim. Their most valuable strategic asset, the nuclear program they poured billions into for decades, is in ruins. Their credibility as a regional power just took a devastating hit. Their air defenses failed. Their intelligence failed. Their allies could not protect them. Every citizen who was told the regime was strong and the mountain would protect them now knows the truth. The mountain did not protect them, but a wounded regime is a dangerous regime. Iran will not accept this quietly. They have options, and none of them are good for the region. They could unleash their proxies across the Middle East, launching wave after wave of attacks against American bases and Israeli cities. They could try to close the Strait of Hormuz, choking off a fifth of the world's oil supply and sending energy prices into chaos. They could launch cyber attacks against critical infrastructure in the United States and Europe. They could accelerate any hidden portions of their nuclear program and try to sprint toward a weapon before the world can strike again. Or they could do something no one expects. They could reevaluate. They could recognize that the game has changed, that the calculations that worked for 2 decades no longer work, that the world is no longer willing to wait. This is the moment where regimes either double down or rethink. History will decide which choice Tehran makes. For Israel, this is a moment of profound strategic relief. For years, Israeli leaders have argued that a nuclear Iran is an existential threat. Now that threat has been pushed back by years. Israeli intelligence and Israeli diplomacy played a much larger role in this mission than the public will ever fully know. Every satellite image and whispered piece of intelligence from inside Iran contributed to the targeting package executed last night. For Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, this is a delicate moment. Publicly, many will issue statements of concern. Privately, many leaders are exhaling for the first time in years. A nuclear Iran was the nightmare that kept them awake. That nightmare just took a serious blow. But they also know they are on the front lines of any Iranian retaliation. Their oil fields and airports are all within range of missiles and drones. The next few weeks will test the strength of every alliance in the region. For Russia and China, this is a wake-up call. Both countries have grown accustomed to a world where American power is questioned. Last night, that narrative cracked. The United States just executed one of the most complex long-range strike missions in modern history. Hitting targets buried under a mountain thousands of miles from home in a single night is a message. That message is being read very carefully in Moscow and Beijing right now. And for the United States, this is a turning point. For years, American foreign policy has been described as reactive and hesitant. That description no longer fits. Whatever you think about the politics, the raw capability on display last night is undeniable. The United States military demonstrated something that no other nation on earth can do with precision and discipline. But power always comes with responsibility. The question now is what the United States does with this moment. Does it press forward and try to negotiate from a position of strength? Does it prepare for the retaliation that is almost certainly coming? Does it build a coalition to lock in the gains of this strike, or does it stand alone? The next few weeks will shape the next decade. Let me give you one more layer of analysis that most commentators are going to miss. The world just watched a demonstration of what happens when a nation crosses a red line. For decades, the international system has debated whether such red lines even exist anymore, whether powerful countries can actually be stopped from doing whatever they want, and whether diplomacy still has teeth. Every rogue regime on earth has been watching. North Korea, factions in Pakistan, groups within other nuclear-curious states. They were all quietly betting that they could follow the Iranian playbook of enrichment and delay. Last night, that playbook died. Whatever the long-term consequences, one message went out to every capital on earth. Buried facilities are not safe. Underground programs are not invisible. The idea that geography and concrete can protect a nation from consequences is now provably incorrect. That is a bigger deal than any one strike. That is a shift in the psychology of global power that will echo for years. Now, here is my honest closing thought, and I want you to sit with this for a second. There is no such thing as a clean war. There is no such thing as a strike without consequences. Somewhere tonight, in Iran, there are families mourning workers who went to their jobs and never came home. There are children who do not understand why the ground shook. Whatever you think about the regime, those people are human beings. The strike may have been necessary to prevent something far worse, but necessary is not the same as pain-free. Anyone who celebrates war without understanding its cost has never spoken to someone who has actually fought one. At the same time, there is a cost to inaction. There is a cost to allowing a regime that chants death to its enemies to build nuclear weapons. There's a cost to pretending that talking forever is the same as solving a problem. Sometimes the choice is not between good and bad. Sometimes the choice is between bad and worse. And leaders have to make that choice with imperfect information, knowing that history will judge them either way. Last night, a choice was made. Bombers flew. Targets were destroyed. A program that threatened the region was crippled. And the world woke up to a new balance of power that no one can fully understand yet. We are living through history in real time. The next chapter is not written. It depends on choices that have not been made yet. Choices by Tehran. Choices by Washington. Choices by leaders whose names we may not even know. Some of those choices will lead to peace. Some of them will lead to more war. All we can do is watch, think clearly, and refuse to be fooled by whatever narrative gets pushed at us by people with agendas. I hope this breakdown gave you something you couldn't get anywhere else. If it did, you already know what to do. Stay curious, stay skeptical, stay informed. And remember, in a world of noise, the people who understand what is really happening are the ones who take the time to look deeper. I will see you in the next one.